Welcome to Bitcoin and me, Matyáš. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Gary. Great to be invited. You are my first podcast recording for the BTC Prague 2026 edition. So I'm going to drop some really exciting bombs.
Fantastic. I'm very honored. And on the same day, we've confirmed that we're going again with our conference, a much smaller conference in the UK next year. So it's quite a nice bit of alignment there to have some big news from a little conference and some big news from a big conference.
Well, congrats on your conference, and let's keep the good job because more conference is better.
For sure. So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, do you want to just give a brief overview of your background in Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Matyáš Kuchař. I come from Czech Republic. Been in Bitcoin since probably like 2017-ish, but first time I've heard about Bitcoin in 2010 when I was part of the Occupy Wellington movement. And I was thinking what to do in Bitcoin in like 2020. Still working in a hospitality. I had my own business, and we figured with my brother that we wanted to organize a Bitcoin conference because there was nothing like that in Czech Republic. It was in the COVID times, and we did it anyway. During the lockdown, we organized our first conference in 2020. It was 500 people, and this kind of gave us a proof of concept and escape velocity. So we were doubling every year since then, and it grew to the size of 2,000 people, still in Czech language only. And we decided that we will organize one more conference, which is BTC Prague, the biggest Bitcoin conference in Europe, with thousands of people, 250 speakers, 4 stages, 4 day long. It's a massive event where the whole European Bitcoin community can meet and learn from each other and work together for bigger goals, like saving Europe from the bureaucratic parasitic group. Like we are already winning the race, but there is still a lot of work which needs to be done. And Bitcoiners are powerful. There will be even more powerful, like in future. And I think that now is the time where people really can do things and change the course of future. And BTC Prague is a platform where people can meet and discuss how they want to achieve the transition, the transformation they are looking for. Because many people feeling hopeless, and Bitcoin is a lifeboat. It's just an amazing technology which deserve the platform we've created. So that was kind of a summary, I would say, with a little bit of spice on the top.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. I completely understand you and your brother wanted to do something, take action, do a Czech language only conference. And then what was it, the success of that made you want to do something bigger and better, or just the ambition and kind of desire to try and spread the word of Bitcoin further and wider?
I would say that it went very well for the first edition. So like we were not asking twice to do it again. Yes, of course. We did it again and we had 1,000 people. The venue was packed. We hit the capacity. And it was not in Prague. It was in Ostrava, different city. So like getting 1,000 people to a small city near Poland border, that's something. And everyone appreciate that. So we said, okay, let's do it even bigger. So we rented an even bigger venue. And again, we doubled to 2,000 people. We saw, and even people from abroad, few Polish people, few Germans came to our Czech-speaking conference. We were probably the biggest non-English speaking Bitcoin conference in the world. And we didn't realize that. We were just doing what we like, and we were good in doing this. And this moment realization of doing something even bigger came a little bit later when we were traveling across Europe and meeting people from different Bitcoin communities. We quickly realized that there are so many interesting people around Europe, and each of the community is a little bit different. They're using Bitcoin in a different way. They have something to share, and everything what they got, the knowledge, is hidden behind the language barrier and the cultural barrier. So Czechs don't know what is going on in Germany. Germans don't know what is going on in France or in Balkan. We have this very unfortunate thing in Europe that we have so many languages, so many cultures. So this kind of gave us that idea about BTC Prague, about building the platform where we can bridge the barriers and we can meet and learn from each other, so we can work towards a bigger goal, and we can have some safety net. If the shit hits the fan, you always will have people and friends, real relationship in countries all around the world. So you can verify what is happening, and you don't need to trust the information what media is trying to push on us to make us feel not powerful, to make us feel like a herd of sheep where the nanny state needs to take care about us and tell us what to do. It's over. This kind of game is not working well with Bitcoiners. And because we know that, because I come from Czech Republic, we had an oppressive regime here for the last 2 generations, and I come from the dissident family. So I can smell this from a very far away. So we are perfect. We are perfect candidates for Bitcoin. And also with the experience of organization, it came naturally.
Did you have full-time jobs at the time, or was it a side hustle setting these?
Oh, we both had our fiat jobs when we started, and it was after the 3rd edition of Czech Speaking Conference when we said to ourselves, okay, now is the time to quit our job and focus fully on Bitcoin.
Yeah, but and were the conferences always Bitcoin only? Was that an easy thing to do, or was there financial pressure or other pressures to kind of engage with other crypto?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it was always Bitcoin only. We have been fortunate, I would say, because the community in Czech Republic is very Bitcoin only focused. So it kind of turned this way naturally. We didn't so like we were thinking about it, but we actually didn't have any in the first year. We didn't have any speakers from other cryptocurrencies. So it wasn't like that we would say from the very first year we are absolutely Bitcoin only, Bitcoin maxis. We were Bitcoin maxis already with my brother, but we had our past with shitcoins, like many people. We learned hard way. So we always think that you need to meet people halfway, and that was the case in the beginning. But if I remember correctly, and I think I do, we never had any other crypto talk on stage since the very beginning.
What about things like sponsorship though? I know from experience trying to get these events off the ground and trying to consider the sponsorship as you got bigger and bigger. Was it still easy to get sufficient sponsorship from Bitcoin-only businesses?
Yes. Well, it wasn't always easy, but we managed. We kept the creation of partners. We thought about it very carefully. We didn't want to jeopardize the good vibe and reputation we have created. And we feel very precious about our attendees. We want to lead the way for them and show them only the good stuff. So there is no space for crypto, it's Bitcoin only. And that's the thing. I wouldn't introduce crypto to our people. And with partners, for example, we have a rule that we don't work with anyone who has his own token. So we work with exchanges, but not if they have a token. So, for example, no Binance. They try to get to BTC Prague. They are trying every year, but sorry, that's our rule. And with the others, I think, again, we are fortunate because we are from Czech Republic. We have great companies here. Trezor, Satoshi Labs, Brains Pool, and the Brain OS miners. They are from Prague, they're from Czech Republic. General Bytes, the biggest Bitcoin ATM manufacturer, they are from Czech Republic. Anycoin, huge exchange, Firefish, and few other Bitcoin companies actually are from Czech Republic and are operating still from Czech Republic. So that is a good base and good foundation we can really trust and we can build on.
Bitcoin Prague this year was my first ever Bitcoin conference, and I was just blown away. I mean, it was life-changing for me, honestly.
Thank you.
So firstly, I want to thank you for putting on such a great event. So much of the strength of it was that it was truly Bitcoin only, and just the whole feel of the conference just was so energetic, and the vibes outside with the beer tents, the expo with the energy of all of the vendors and the people kind of going around, and then that kind of quiet, dark intensity of the main stage. Just the whole thing was kind of magical, really.
Well, yeah, well, it's a whole year work. We only focus on this event, and we put a lot of time to think about every little detail and about the way how you can really experience Bitcoin. And one of our mottos is empower individuals. We want our attendees to feel the value and to feel the benefit quite quickly. And it's not only about Bitcoin as a store of value. You can use Bitcoin as a perfect networking tool. The people you meet at the event are it's like the second biggest asset on the way to Bitcoin. The people you meet will give you a conviction, safety net, and friendships. So that's something what you cannot get online, and you get it only if you meet people in the real world. And that's not all. Like Bitcoin is an open source technology where you can develop. Bitcoin is a freedom tool. It's money which cannot be stopped. And we are trying to showcase this to our attendee. And this year we are even preparing something extraordinary, and that's gamification, where we will be coming up with challenges, what people can actually complete. Imagine paying for beer with Bitcoin. That's a use case. It's a medium of exchange. And if you do that, you get a point. And if you get, let's say, 21 points, nice round number, you can then come to the info point and exchange those points for a mystery box of orange color, of course. Or you can compete with others, other users and players, because there will be a live leaderboard, and there will be, of course, a big prize waiting for a winner of this gamification of this competition, and we will announce it on the very last day on the main stage. So we want to really people experience Bitcoin and show that it's not just the best saving technology in the world. Of course it is, but it's not just that. To feel the real value and real benefit, you must think about Bitcoin as a complex thing with all those other factors, and everyone gets to this point, but the way can be quite slow. So we want to speed up the process of adoption and of understanding.
Does it frustrate you when you hear people that treat it purely as a store of value?
No, not at all. I think everyone is allowed to use Bitcoin exactly as he or she wants. So if someone wants to use it only as a store of value, I feel like you are not using it right. But it doesn't frustrate me. It just shows that you don't understand Bitcoin fully.
Yeah, it's a good take, actually. I think that's reframing how I think of it, because it does. I find it quite frustrating when people say, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin. I'm like, well, you need to strengthen the network, and it needs to become a medium of exchange. And if we just treat it as a store of value, it won't get there. But to your point, it's like, well, it takes all sorts. And if there are individuals who purely treat it as a store of value, as long as there are other people that are embracing it and using it as a medium of exchange, it can be different things for different people.
You know, I think Europeans are quite well diverse in use cases. If I compare it with Americans are really a lot for just hold forever, the kind of the money thing first. I feel like Europeans are really into the freedom part of the movement. and the community. We have so many small meetups, and the open source movement is very strong in Czech and in Germany. And not only on Bitcoin, but like the technology, the geeky part of Europe, Eastern Europe specifically, is somehow strong, and it made a dent in the world. And that's why I think that Europeans will lead the other use cases of Bitcoin. And that's why I'm trying to give the platform and create the perfect environment to show the other use cases, the medium of exchange. And you said it right. If we only use Bitcoin as a saving technology, I don't think that we fulfill the mission of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is supposed to be a medium of exchange. It's peer-to-peer electronic cash. So if we only use Bitcoin as a store of value, I think it's only halfway there.
Yeah. And I think if everyone did that, Bitcoin would fail. But we've got enough people that are exploring all the other aspects and elements of Bitcoin that actually, if a proportion of Bitcoiners purely treat it as a store of value, Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin will carry on doing its thing and spreading its tentacles elsewhere. So yeah, it's not going to stop the adoption and the strengthening of the network just because a proportion of Bitcoiners purely treat it as store of value.
Yep, correct. Well, we will just need to wait for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that interests me is, as you expanded the conference, how easy was it tapping into kind of bigger names within the Bitcoin space? Did they approach you wanting to be involved, or did you have to go kind of cap in hand to try and persuade some of these people to come and talk?
Yeah, well, the beginning was very difficult because no one knew us in the global Bitcoin scene. I remember, I think in 2023, I visited 13 Bitcoin conferences. My brother probably did the same number. So we tried to be everywhere. We were visiting every little and big conference what was possible, and just trying to spread the news about BTC Prague. And we were quite successful because for the first year we had Michael Saylor, Saifeddin Ammous, Robert Breedlove, Jimmy Song, Adam Beck, Giacomo Zucco. We had all these big gangsters, So, and then every year we are adding new names, and we are traveling a little less. But still, it's a lot of connection needs to be built in the real world. So I was just in Nashville last week to meet with few people, and now we are connected. We had a discussion. I explained how we like to do things in Europe, and they find it valuable to come and to learn from us and to give their part to share their part of the work with Europeans. So those exchanges are extremely valuable and important. And I think it's easier to answer your question. It's easier and easier to get people to BTC Prague because it is the biggest megaphone for Europe. But still, there is a long way to go. And every year I have some wishes who I want to bring, and it's exciting to try to get the people there. Jack Dorsey, for example, he's my top number one wish and a headliner I want to bring. I talked to him a few times, and unfortunately he didn't come yet, but perhaps this year or next, who knows?
Yeah, I guess to use a Bitcoin phrase, proof of work is very strong, isn't it? You obviously, you and your brother started something really credible, but Czech only language and smaller. But every year that it's kind of grown, it must be easier and easier to attract those big names because they can see what a fantastic event that you've created and how many people attend. It's an easier conversation now, I'm sure, than it was a few years ago.
It is an easier conversation, but it doesn't mean it's easier to convince them to come. Everyone is busy these days. And there are dozens of conferences happening each month almost. So, and fly over the ocean takes some time. So it is not easy. I wouldn't categorize it like this.
No, but I think the other thing, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, but one of the things that amazed me the most in organising our, albeit much smaller conference, is the guy I was organising it with, we were both saying, well, who's going to come and talk? Like, we're going to have to just ask people.
Mhm.
What completely blew me away is, on the whole, pretty much everyone we invited was, giving up their time. No one wanted paying. Everyone wanted to come and support the event, and if they were free, they came and they contributed and supported the event. And we had some. Admittedly, we didn't obviously try anyone like Sailor or Saifedean Moose, but we had big names in UK Bitcoin, and managed to get 30 odd speakers to come to this little town in Bury St Edmunds. And I think that says to me how early we still are, that people who want to contribute and have their voice heard are prepared to travel and go to places because it's a platform for them as much as it is, helping out the people that are organizing these events.
Yeah, well, that's amazing that you were successful like this for the first year. And perhaps, do you think that it's because of the situation which UK is in now, like the censorship and kind of the hopeless situation with immigrants and all these other things, like kind of a socialism, and I don't know how much I can describe it, but from what I see on Twitter, it looks horrible, and I feel with you guys. So do you think that, like, the grassroots movement, the growing amount of meetups and conferences in UK is an answer for this? Is it the escape vote?
I think some of the things that you see on X are, as ever, are amplified. You see something going on in the centre of London and you think that is the UK. Kind of isn't. It is and it isn't. I mean, those events are happening, but if you walk down the street in Bury St Edmunds on Saturday market day, you'd think, none of these things are an issue.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult, as ever with any kind of media, things can be quite, especially on X, it's quite, what's the word I'm looking for? It can be amplified, can't it? And you see the more extreme elements of situations and things blowing up, and it's everything's falling apart. And yes, there are some awful things happening and some very worrying trends, I think, culturally and politically. But at the same time, there are pockets of optimism, and Bitcoiners live in that pocket of optimism. And I think there aren't really many conferences in the UK. Yes, there are lots of small meetups, but in terms of actual conferences, there's Pete McCormack does Cheat Code in Bedford. There's one in Manchester this year.
One
There's
in
a new
Derby.
one in Derby, and there's in Scotland. There's Glasgow, but there aren't that many. So I mean, our conference was the first in East Anglia, which is the whole east part of England, ever. So I mean, it's still relatively new. So I do think there's an element of people that are in the space want to help and contribute to try and make that space bigger and better and spread the network. And we had a very nice mix of, I mean, I would say probably half of our speakers had been on stage at Bitcoin Prague, Bitcoin Vegas, so they were talking then at BSE conference in little old Bury St Edmunds. We also gave opportunities to very young or just keen Bitcoiners from the UK who had an opinion and a voice that wanted to be heard, an opportunity to go on stage and be alongside these people. And so it felt like a nice mixture of established, experienced voices and fresh, new voices, maybe younger people who wanted to have their voice heard. So yeah, it had quite a nice, authentic grassroots kind of feeling to it.
Yeah, I think UK has some amazing speakers, and that's why we invited them. And we've seen the spike up in numbers of British Bitcoiners coming to Prague. It's huge. I mean, it surprised us greatly. Well, to be to be absolutely honest, we don't collect any data from our ticket holders. We try to respect privacy as much as is possible. So those number comes from the web traffic. And we see a lot of traffic coming from UK. And it's very nice to see that because, and now I'm coming back to the language barrier. It would be great if the Brits would be amplifying the message of Europe to the whole world because of your native language, right? So I'm now in touch with many other Bitcoiners, so to say, and we are talking about the mission, how to save Europe, how to move to the which is better than the one what the nanny state is preparing for us, full of surveillance, CBDC, inflation, and socialism. But I really think that we need to pull the right direction together, not to work really decentralized as until now, but really kind of figure out the right approach and right strategy and take over the lead for Europe, because the Europe is ours, you know. And I think that Brits are very, very important part of this movement because of your language and because of the historical relevance and financial relevance as a big financial market, global financial markets. I'm very happy that we are connected and that you are becoming bigger and bigger part of our BTC Prague platform, because that was the goal since the very beginning. Build Bitcoin bridges between the countries and make one neutral place where we can work together.
Yeah, and I think Prague and Czech Republic is a good place for that to happen, because as a kind of almost a hub for that, because I mean, it might be worth you giving a bit of an overview of the kind of political, cultural and economic conditions in Czech Republic, which make being a Bitcoiner potentially easier and more rewarding than being a Bitcoiner in the UK or Germany or wherever else it might be.
Yeah, well, okay. So how far do you want me to go? It all started in the medieval times when we invented the word defenestration. We were not happy with the leading group of officers, so the plebs and some clerics went to the city hall and they throw out the officials from the window. It happened second time after I think 30 years, and I'm not a big history fan, so I'm probably butchering a part of this story. The point is that Czechs have always been quite freedom-loving folks, but we were always under control of someone bigger because we are a small country. But we were always trying to figure out the way how we can reclaim our freedoms, or at least how we can live under the cover in a parallel society. And in the communist era, it was more and more obvious that we need a parallel society, and there were whole philosophies about it written down, because if you were against the regime, you were really scrutinized and you couldn't do studies, for example, you couldn't study university, and it was horrible. And we had some certain crazy laws about our currency and about foreign currencies. And this kind of thing gave us a good foundation for Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin appeared in 2009, and there were few people in Prague, in hackerspace Burnlab, geeking around Bitcoin and trying to figure out the very first infrastructure. So hardware wallets, BIP39, first mining pool, first Bitcoin ATM, everything happened in Prague in between 2009 and 2012. So those are the companies I told you about: Satoshi Labs, Brains, General Bytes. This gave us the escape velocity, and you need time to understand Bitcoin. And because we started so early and there was a great foundation, it went, and the whole trajectory of Bitcoin adoption is very, very good. And now I think that there are some estimations that more than 1 million people in Czech Republic, that would mean 10%, are somehow exposed to Bitcoin or crypto. And our biggest Bitcoin-only YouTuber has more than 100,000 followers, only in Czech language. So we have so many people who like Bitcoin, and because the Bitcoiners like to just do stuff and they don't ask for permission, they develop some other projects and other ways how to, for example, spend Bitcoin. So since 2015, I think you can pay with Bitcoin in the biggest Czech online retailer. It's called Alza. It's like a Czech Amazon. You can buy anything there. You can pay with Bitcoin. Since 2018, you can pay with Lightning. So I'm actually buying things and paying with Lightning for household items, electronics, whatever. Nowadays, you can pay with more than 1,000 restaurants with Bitcoin. And it's because one of the senior technical developer in a company who is offering like quick payments in restaurants, he is a Bitcoiner, and he smuggled in the way how you can pay with Bitcoin. So it's really about people, and few individuals can do a huge amount of work, and then the rest, the crowd, is benefiting from it. So the last development I would like to touch on and explain, because it's extremely important for Czech Republic, and it was very important for me, my personal light bulb moment. It's about the no capital gain taxes law, which came into effect in May 2025. So I was there when it was kind of discussed in between the core Bitcoin group in Czech Republic. And we knew that we need something like good tax law to make people halt and not paying capital gain taxes, like it's with stocks. Then there were a problem that companies were losing bank accounts. So we needed a law which will grant a right to have a bank account as a company. And this all sounded 3 years ago like almost mission impossible. For me, I said, good luck with that, you guys being crazy and very ambitious, but it happened. So it was passed it was agreed upon in the parliament, unitarily voted for. So there was no one voting against this law.
Can I just ask though, was that surprising? Because I think if that conversation were to happen in a lot of countries, there'd be massive pushback. So what do you think that's more of a cultural thing in Czech Republic, or the political class are maybe a bit more naturally freedom loving and understand Bitcoin more than other places?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Gary. I don't think I can give you a clear answer. I can say that I think it's a combination of many things which led to this. And it's the thing that they also organized this kind of a group of people who were lobbying for this change. They organized a small conference inside the parliament, and they invited the leaders, the C-level managers from those companies, Bitcoin companies. They came there and they told them what is the industry, what the industry looks like, how much of the revenue it makes, how much money in taxes are they paying, how much of the job positions are they filling. It's a huge industry, and actually we are very good in it. So why you as a state are like punishing us and trying to throw something against us? So they understood this, and of course there was some negative feedback, but then the Bitcoin community, the normal people, plebs, they came in and they sent it hundreds and thousands of letters to the officials, and they spammed the whole Twitter. They tagged every possible person who is on the network, and because it was seen, it was a big kind of a drama. We made a drama around it as a Bitcoin community. I think that everyone was scared to vote against it. And then some big politicians, they actually made a video like, yes, we are for Bitcoin, and they wore a Bitcoin t-shirt. So it was a snowball effect. It was an avalanche of social media activity and engagement which led to this decision. And I think it's a good case which can be copied, and perhaps it will inspire other countries. So it's possible, and it gave me the hope that it's possible, because I really thought that it's impossible and that we are doomed. And people were thinking about leaving Czech and moving to different country, different jurisdiction, creating other passports, and companies thinking about other ways how to survive. And it's over. Now we fought and we won the next phase of the Bitcoin adoption in Czech Republic. And I really believe that this is a thing which can be applied on so many bigger levels. And Czech Republic is just the first country, is like the El Salvador in Europe, which just prove it's possible and you can just do things. And you should never underestimate a group of well-motivated individuals.
And remind me, do you have to hold it for 1 year, or is it 3 years?
For 3 years.
3 years, right. Yeah, okay. So once you've held that Bitcoin for 3 years, even if it's gone up 10 times in price, you could sell it if you wanted to with no capital gains tax at all. And what was the capital gains tax rate before that ruling was applied?
It was, I think it was 15%, if I'm correct.
15? 1 5?
15, yeah.
Okay.
Don't take my word for granted. Always verify. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have any Bitcoin, so I don't know. I never sold any Bitcoin.
Yeah, because I think what that comes up against, though, is, and certainly this is probably going to come from a very UK-focused view, but we are in a massive financial black hole, £7 trillion, I think, in debt, overspending by billions every month. So all of the narrative in the UK is around where the government going to go to get more tax. They're going to put more restrictions on pension tax-free withdrawals. They're going to raid pensions. They're going to limit other investment opportunities and they have already raised capital gains tax. They're now, for 2027, whereas pensions used to be outside of inheritance tax, they're now putting it inside the wrapper of inheritance tax. So all of the mood music is pointing towards tougher tax, higher tax, and more restrictive regime. So I'd love to share your optimism and enthusiasm for more countries taking on that kind of policy. But unfortunately for the UK, for me, that seems like complete pie in the sky right now. So I think the worrying thing for me is I think more people from the UK will look at other countries, Dubai, Czech Republic, etc., and say, I need to move. I need to go there.
Well, but that's exactly what I mean, Gary. I was in the same position like you. Nothing is lost. Like, that's the mindset is very important. That's what I want to achieve with that's my mission. I want people to feel powerful and to just change the course of history. And if it takes 3 years of advocacy, just do that, And someone who likes to do that can just do that, I'm not the kind of a person, I organize conference, but we had few people who kind of like to talk to politicians, and they are Bitcoiners. They have the connections. They run the cryptocurrency association, and they were able to pull the right strings. And it happened, the situation was perhaps not that bad in UK. I'm not sure about how I would compare it, but it was really bad. It was really bad because people were thinking about moving. It was absolutely like number 3 conversation in every Bitcoin meetup. Hey, where are you moving? I'm not selling my Bitcoin here. Where are you moving? This was absolutely normal conversation, but not anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've got Bitcoin Policy UK. So Freddie New, Susie Violet Ward, Susie was in Prague, obviously, this year. They do amazing work, absolutely phenomenal work. But my sense is the trouble is they're often shouting into a void, or the politicians they're having to deal with just almost closed their minds to understanding what Bitcoin is. The UK have got 61,000 Bitcoin, seized Bitcoin, and the person in charge of a policy for that says the UK isn't interested in a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I mean, so we could end up doing what Germany did and selling everything we've got. I mean, I'm a naturally optimistic person and I like to take action, and, you know, I don't like to think of anything as a lost cause, but and I'm really going to try hard to cling on to that. But as I say, at the moment in the UK, it feels like, particularly with Labour in charge, it's very socialist. It's very much a case of, speech marks, rich people are demonized, and increasingly Bitcoiners, I think, will become part of that narrative, which is, well, they just got lucky. Now, this person bought Bitcoin 10 years ago. They've made money by doing nothing, which, of course, as Bitcoiners, we know that's a complete fallacy, because if you've held Bitcoin for any number of years, you've been through all kinds of psychological or mental turmoil and technical strengths to just keep hold of it and keep holding through those cycles. But yeah, I don't know. I really hope so. I really hope things change. And maybe if there are enough people that feel so strongly, maybe it will
change. It will change. It's just about the time when. So, like, the work means to make it quicker. You know, it will change, definitely. So you can wait for a change or work on the change. I think the second option is better. You know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah, like, it took 3 years in Czech. Okay, maybe it will take 7 UK. It's still good, right? I mean, it's still fine.
Yeah.
Like, in 7 years, Bitcoin will be definitely, the price will be higher, the adoption will be bigger, the infrastructure will be stronger. No one will be able to argue with you anymore. So, okay, so it will take 7 years. Who cares? Like, yeah, we have to wait for it or work for it.
Yeah, and I think there are two outcomes. It is conceivable that it won't happen, in which case the UK will end up being the country that everyone flees and completely falls apart. But, you know, I think, again, if you keep a glass half full attitude and a positive approach, and you think, even if, as you say, if it takes 7 years, the UK may get a lot worse before that happens and before it gets better, but that will still be a good outcome, even if it is in 7 years' time. And, you know, in the meantime, all sorts of draconian tax rules will be put in place, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I think Bitcoin and Bitcoiners on the whole hold that kind of mental approach, don't they? We're naturally positive because we feel like we're on that life raft. And if we're in a tunnel, we're focusing on the light that's at the end, not all the darkness that's surrounding us.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you know, there is always a hope. You can come to Czech Republic and build with us. If the situation will be desperate, which of course I don't foresee a future where the whole world will be healed in the same time. There will be pockets of freedom cities, freedom states. And then there will be the rest who are just keeping the same old system and tradition, and that will be sad, but that's the life, right? The smart money and smart people will always flow where they feel treated well.
I went to Bitcoin Prague 2025 and I absolutely loved it. It's back again. If you're looking at going, use code GaryBTC at checkout for 10% off your tickets. How do you look at what's happening in America with Trump and that administration, and what influence do you think that will have on Europe?
Interesting question. You know, I was never into politics. I kind of try to ignore it. I don't own TV. I don't read news. But this is the first time I was actually watching the development, and I was hoping that Trump will be elected because of kind of the second side of the aisle, Kamala Harris. Yeah, I think she's a horrible creature. So I was happy that Trump was elected, that it's pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto. I think it's very net good Of course, there are many, I would say, negative externalities, but it's not good. And I think that Europeans are kind of inspired by USA in many ways. And if they see that USA is approaching Bitcoin in a friendly way, Europe will follow. So I think this is a net good situation. It will help the legitimization of Bitcoin. So institutions are looking at this particular thing, like how politicians are talking about Bitcoin, what is the PR around it, and they feel safe, finally. After all these years when Bitcoin was dying and boiling the oceans, I think we've dealt with most of the facts, and now the way is clear for institutions to jump in and start adopting Bitcoin as a store of value, as a treasury asset, as a cross-border payment solution to make a cost efficiency and perhaps paying people benefits in Bitcoin. There are so many use cases for institutions which make sense, and we need a legal clarity for them to sign in for it. And I think that we are almost there, that we have some kind of a foundation what the corporations and institutions can build on. And this will just mean the next phase of Bitcoin adoption. So I'm happy for that. I don't fully agree with everything. I mean, Bitcoin for me is a peer-to-peer electronic cash, and I think that people should buying it, not institutions. We can see that many people are just waiting, and for what they are waiting, perhaps they're waiting for their institution to buy it first, so they can buy it from them. So I think that the next phase of adoption will be because of every second local bank will be offering Bitcoin denominated products. And the normal people, Jim and Joe from street, they will go to their local bank for Bitcoin. They will not buy the first Bitcoin even with Coinbase or Kraken, not speaking about peer-to-peer. Right, this is just too hardcore for most of the people. So I think
Are you quite comfortable with that? Do you think that's because some Bitcoiners don't like the fact that people might use an on-ramp like a BlackRock ETF and say it's paper Bitcoin, it's not Bitcoin, you don't hold the keys, it's not yours. But
that's all true.
Say that again, sorry?
Yeah, that's all true. It's not Bitcoin if it's a Bitcoin ETF. Is like speaking about, I would use the analogy of knife. So you can have a very sharp sushi knife, the Japanese steel. That's Bitcoin, and then you have a plastic knife what they give you in an airplane, and that's the BlackRock ETF.
Do you still think even in so if I give you the scenario where people have capital that's locked up in a pension, for example. So in a pension, you have limited choices to where you can invest. So if someone chooses to invest in a Bitcoin ETF in their pension, rather than investing in the S&P 500 or investing in just Apple stock or whatever, is your view still the same? Or is that a slightly different scenario?
Well, I would say it's not good. Like there is if it's a first step to Bitcoin and if it's the only option for you, it's great. Perhaps that's the thing what people need. They need to first try the most easiest way how to approach it. And I really feel that we need to meet people halfway. Like convincing someone to use Bitcoin peer-to-peer without KYC, if they never even hold a hardware wallet in a hand, it's go. I think that everyone can approach Bitcoin from wherever they want. And then it's just about the other use cases and what Bitcoin really solves for you. How do you appreciate your privacy? How do you plan to use Bitcoin in future? Do you want to leverage it, or do you want to give it as an inheritance to your kids? Do you want to split it in a way that the kids will know who is getting what? Do you want to use time locks on it? Like there are so many options with Bitcoin, and you like the last few things what I said you can't do with Bitcoin ETF. You have to have a real Bitcoin and hold the keys. And I think this is a very this is the thing which change everything. Holding your own keys, being sovereign with your money, that's the powerful thing on it. And it's not easy to grasp. It's something very new, something what you need to spend a lot of time to actually and practice to not fuck it up. So I think that it's good start whenever you start, even if it's exchange or ATF, it's perfect. And then just never stop learning. And this is the motto of ours. And we always try to encourage people with BTC Prague to never stop learning. Once you feel confident and comfortable, that should be a sign to yourself that you should pick up a book or try a new product or review your security setup.
Yeah. I completely agree with everything you've just said, especially the bit around, you know, meeting people where they are and giving them the on-ramp that works best for them, but accepting that might not be an ideal route in, but it is a first step. And if that individual continues to learn, because the thing is, if you have a conversation with a friend and they say, I'll buy some Bitcoin, and they buy some Bitcoin, more than they probably should have done as an initial investment, and then they put it on a hardware wallet, they write down a seed phrase, and then lose that piece of paper, and they've lost all their money. That is the worst thing that could happen. So as much as Bitcoin, as we all know, not your keys, not your coins, if you've got Bitcoin sitting on an exchange, you don't, all you own at that point is the right to the fiat value of the Bitcoin that you believe you have purchased on that exchange. That it might say 0.1 BTC, but you don't have 0.1 BTC. If you're lucky, you'll be able to get that, you know, transfer it somewhere else or get the fiat equivalent. But, you know, again, for someone who's brand new into Bitcoin, that is a safe way where at least there is a risk they'll lose it if an FTX type thing happens, but that's probably a lower risk than going straight into self-custody and fucking something up.
Yeah. I have few my normie friends who know me from very long time, and they were always very skeptical about Bitcoin until they could buy a MicroStrategy shares in their application. And only then they actually said that they are sorry that they said that Bitcoin is for money launderers and those other things, horrible things they were talking about every time they saw me. And yeah, like, you know, we need to meet people where they are. That's the harsh reality.
Yeah, for sure. So going back to Bitcoin Prague 2026, then, are there any other little teasers you can give us as to other plans that you're trying to put in place?
Okay, well, I think that I would like to say that this is the last year we are doing it in this venue. We will be moving to a different venue in 2027, much nicer. But I feel like if you want to know where the first etap of BTC Prague, first 5 years happened, then this is the last chance. And I would say that, like, we are not only conference, it's about movement, meeting people. There is a festival kind of a vibe. It's a summertime in Prague, so it's a perfect time to go to Prague. And I'm pretty sure that everyone who comes will find it valuable and will feel the real benefits very quickly, because that's what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin moves you to places where you wouldn't imagine yourself in if you just go for it. There is an action needed. And this year topic is using Bitcoin. So we will showcase so many interesting stuff, what you can do with Bitcoin, on Bitcoin. And I think that it will blow your mind, because there is a lot what is happening around the world. And we will just give the platform to those who are leading, and they will show you what can be done.
Does it amaze you how much development there is year on year on year? So if you go back to 3, 4, 5 years ago and think about the things that you were, showcasing at your event then versus what you're now looking at potentially showcasing next year?
Yeah,
Like how quickly those developments happen.
it's amazing. I have no chance to keep up, which is frustrating. I used to spend a lot of time with research, and unfortunately, I don't have that much time now. And listening podcasts and like trying new products, new services, it's almost impossible to keep up with the development. And you need to start focusing on one particular use case or trajectory of Bitcoin to be at least somehow familiar with everything what is going on. So yeah, it is amazing. And that's why it's important to come to the conference, because the conference curates stuff for you, and usually it brings just the best of what is possible. So it speeds up the process of your understanding and conviction, because seeing it in the real world is something different than watching videos on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I can only echo all of that and say to anyone listening, if you've never been to a conference, then find a meetup, because even just being around like-minded people, if it's half a dozen people, that's, that can be life-changing. But yeah, coming to a conference, particularly one as large and established and professional as Prague, is something that I'd recommend to anyone that's got anything other, anything more than a passing interest in Bitcoin. You're going to get so much from attending. I mean, even things like in the expo, being able to talk to the team from Strike. I mean, I use Strike, I use BitKey, and being able to, meet the team and the people behind that and actually have conversations with them, and that aspect is great. And then just bumping into, literally walking past people that you listen to their podcast or you've watched them on YouTube, and because, again, whether it's because we're, to use the phrase, we're so early, they're just so respectful of, they're so willing to give up their time. I mean, I stopped and had a chat with Ben from BTC Sessions for like 5-10 minutes, and it was such a deep, authentic conversation. It wasn't just him stopping, smiling, letting me take a selfie and then kind of going on. So you get real connections, and with just random people that you meet. It's it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It is fantastic. People in Bitcoin are so open and so friendly. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm working my ass off during the conference, so I am meeting all those people, but the conference usually it's just a big blur for me. The amount of connections I'm doing in 3 days, it's insane. It's insane. So
How much
not
of a
much.
team? How much of a team do you have helping you though? Or how much
Well,
of it is you on those 4 days versus you're pulling strings, but actually you've got other people working with you?
well, there are hundreds of people. If I count like everyone all together, but during the year we are a very small team. Now it's seven people full time during the whole year, and it grows by the time when we are coming closer to the event. We are hiring people always, and like really like months or 2 months before event, it's probably like 50-ish people full time, and then when it starts, it's hundreds. I don't know, 200-300 people. Yeah.
Yeah. But on the day, are you kind of firefighting and fixing issues, or is it just the sheer amount of people that you just have to meet and say hello to? And
Yeah, well, there is always some firefighting. That's the one and only certainty in event business, is that something will go wrong. So there is always something wrong, something unexpected, and that's a part of the business. And you just need to stay calm and not stress around it, and try to figure out the best way how to solve the problem, so no one actually realizes there is a problem.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So I'm just walking, smiling, like nothing is happening, but there is something happening in the other part of the venue.
Do you sometimes wish that you could have a year where you could just be an attendee?
Well, I'm an attendee on many other conferences, so
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
That's fair. That's a good point. Because I must admit that, again, on a much smaller scale, but even on the conference that we hosted, there's just lots of things you're dealing with during the day. As much as I loved it, I kind of felt like other people got a lot more from it than I did. But then that's when you're the organizer, that's the cost you bear. That's what you have to accept, is you can't just sit there and take it all in and spend time talking to people and meeting people. You're also making sure that all of those things are happening, and that the AV team know what they're doing and have got the information they need, and the people that run the venue are on top of sorting things out. But yeah, it's great. And as I say, we're going to go again. There's lots of lessons from last year and things to try and make it as close to a mini Prague as we can in Bury St Edmunds.
Well, that's what we need. We need so many mini Pragues around the world, Decentralize it. Like, first, let's start small. It's actually how it's supposed to be. First, solve your own problems, then your family, then your friends, community, street, city, and then country. If everyone would be thinking like this, I think the world will be a better place.
Yeah, I like that. The last question I ask all my guests is, what's one belief you held before Bitcoin that you've completely changed your mind about?
That's a good one. Well, I thought that inflation is good because they taught me this in school. Yeah, I really thought and I was questioning it even in school. And I remember talking about this with my father, and everyone was saying me, no, inflation is good. That's how we incentivize people to spend, and that's how we kind of control. So I was like, yeah, it was tricky for me to get my head around, but I accepted it. And then it was very straightforward when I saw how inflation is spiking. I was watching a lot of geopolitical financial podcasts in 2016 and 17, and I started, and I was doing a lot of research and trying to understand trading, and I was watching M1 and M2 indexes, and I saw how it's spiking even before COVID. I was thinking, okay, we will see some crazy shit inflation in upcoming year. And I was preparing for a huge financial crisis, but I didn't know that it's going to be COVID, like lockdowns. No one expected this kind of financial crisis. And I, my tinfoil hat on now, but I really believe that the COVID was just a damage control of the financial crisis. They really felt like they need to put some kind of cover on it, because the financial crisis was not because of COVID. It was leading to COVID. It was very obvious, like 2 years before, that it's gonna happen, and all the big economists and financial analysts were talking about it. So inflation.
Yeah, inflation's a good one. I think sometimes people confuse inflation with growth. So they think if prices are going up by 2-3% a year, actually that's just an economy growing. But of course it's not.
No.
And as Bitcoiners, we understand that. Well, thanks so much. It's been great meeting you, and been a really interesting conversation talking about Bitcoin Prague and all the work you're doing. Yeah, it's keep doing what you do, and hopefully I'll get to see you again next year.
Yeah, thank you, Gary, for the invitation. It was nice to talk to you, and greetings to all your listeners. Really, never underestimate your own abilities. If you want to change things, just do it.
Yeah, and I'll say to all the listeners, after they've bought a ticket for the conference in Bury St Edmunds, then definitely get one for Prague as well.
In this particular order.
Yeah, of course. Great. Well, thanks
Cheers.
again, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Have a good
Bye.
one. Bye-bye.